Okay, so today is the 15th of Iyar. Sorry, Nisan. That's of Iyar, yeah?
15.
Nisan, no, of Sivan.
Sivan.
Yeah, Sivan. So it's the 15th of Sivan, and basically it's the Tanya is following the same theme. And the theme of the Tanya is that everything is really Hashem. And the question then is, if everything is really God, how come we don't see that? So he says that, and he says the same thing in many different ways, but from Hashem comes two attributes: the attribute of Chesed, which is expression, or a good example would be, let's say you have a father in a home. So in a certain sense, whenever you have, let's say, a leader or whatever, you say everything is really the leader, or let's say the CEO of a company or the owner of a company. It's really everything's him. But how come you don't see it? It could be the guy doesn't even show up. So the answer is you don't see it because he doesn't want to be seen. He wants whatever, he's giving it over to a manager or whatever. In fact, it's very interesting. In the earlier years, the Rebbe would very often write the letters as the Eibusher is the Boirei Olam Umanhigoi, the creator of the world and its manager. Because if you think of the word manhigoi in Hebrew, is literally similar to the word manager in English. In other words, the Eibusher is not there. And the way God manages the world is through the ability to be unseen, right? The whole concept of reality is that Hashem decided to hide himself, because if he would express himself, it's almost very much an example of a parent and a child. So you allow your children a certain space and freedom to make choices. Why? Because you want them ultimately to make the right choices. And for the person to make the right choice, it has to be free choice. You can't make a choice. You can't make, as one of my lines, if I can quote myself, you can't succeed unless you can fail. You can't make a right choice unless you can make a wrong choice. It's just not possible. And so it's, and I was thinking about this the other day. It's very interesting when you think about it, because on one hand we say there's freedom of choice, on the other hand everything's divine destiny. And they both work together because Hashem really, if you think technically, how is that possible? Like, how would you create a program where, let's say you create, these days you have computer programs and AI and whatever, you can make a robot and this and that. Let's say you literally wanted to make a robot in this world, and the robot would become, I don't know, a good person. So what would you do? So you'd literally do what Hashem did. You'd put within him, the essence of everyone and everything is Hashem. That's his neshama. So he has a nature to do good, and he has compassion. And then you'd put around him, within him, a Yetzer Hara. You'd put a world where half the world has lost its mind, You'd put this infrastructure to give him free choice. So free choice is a very complicated, or I shouldn't say complicated, but it's a very complex, it's a very big story. What you would have to do, I heard the Rebbe, somebody once came to the Rebbe, he said, I don't know, there's a country, 1 billion people in the country. Said, why did God make 1 billion people in the country? He said, first of all, look at your jacket, it was made in that country. And the second of all, free choice. If everybody was a Yid, it wouldn't be a question what to do. Everybody's putting on tefillin. What are you going to question putting on tefillin? No, you have to have a world where there's 7 billion people that don't do it. So you can think, okay, I won't put on tefillin. No, lightning's going to strike me. I'm not going to eat kosher. Nothing's going to happen, So the ability to make choices means there has to be this force of good and this other confusing force of not good. And then the person in between starts to live his life. And then eventually he says, I need something more. I need the right thing. I need the truth. And he realizes that all the falsehood, all the not good was false, and all the good is true. And therefore you have an individual, so you have the truth and you have the untruth, and then he chooses the truth, and that is the path. And ironically, then a new dimension of reality comes in, which is Hashem kind of comes into his little world, and he begins to become part of the truth. He becomes part of the Torah, part of the revelation of Hashem. And this is really the way the world works. And this is Mashiach times that we're in. We've said it before, 62% of the world believe they have a personal relationship with Hashem. So now we have a reality where Hashem is very much present in many people's lives. And those people's lives that he's not present, he will be present. It's just a matter of time, because, falsehood is not meaningful. And nothing that's meaningless can sustain itself, because eventually it's going to eventually it has to give itself up because it's just not valuable, it's not meaningful. Okay, so in today's Tanya, we basically are speaking about this point. The point being that Hashem has chosen to reveal himself. I shouldn't say that, sorry, the opposite. Hashem has chosen to conceal himself so we can find the truth. Even though the whole world is really him, he still conceals himself. But he realized that if he would completely conceal himself, we wouldn't be capable of finding the truth. So therefore, he created a reality, and in this reality there is windows let in light. And what are the windows? They're the tzaddikim. Without the tzaddikim, I don't think the average person could have ever broken out of the darkness. The tzaddikim, whether it's Avraham Avinu, the Rebbe, they really help us. As it says in the beginning of Tanya, that Hashem saw there would be few Amud v'Shaslam v'Chol Davar. He put them in every generation. It's very interesting when you think about it, because kind of, if you want to say, we're Ashkenazic Jews, so we think about Ashkenazic tzaddikim, but really the Sephardic Jews had very, very great tzaddikim as well. So Hashem put, whether there's the Ben Ish Chai, and these few people became models and role models to maybe millions. So it's unbelievable. And you had Chaim Ben Attar, what was he called again? The Chaim HaKadosh, yeah. So this tremendous tzaddikim, he literally had a magic carpet. They made the story of the magic carpet after him. So Hashem put, and the Yemenite Jews had their tzaddikim, so Hashem put these tzaddikim in different generations, and even some women, and they like, it's obvious that there's a guy. You go to the Rebbe, there was a guy that survived the Holocaust. I think it was a Belzer Chassid. He had like psoriasis. And so the Rebbe said to him that normally when a miracle happens, there's some kind of concealment. So the Rebbe would do a miracle, he'd say, I don't know, take a shot, go to a doctor, this and that. But by this, and there were many times it was obvious that it was the shot, had no ability to really heal. So the Rebbe, that's why it's good to always write to the Rebbe. You never know what can happen. But the Rebbe said to this person, because he went through the Holocaust and came from family, lost faith, he's gonna do an open miracle. He has to take off his shirt and literally put his hands over him, and it went straight to white, straight back. So this was a situation where the Rebbe, did an open, clear miracle. In any event, I mentioned it before, but it's amazing that you see this, literally you see it in front of your eyes. There's a video where this guy comes to the Rebbe by dollars. He says, my son can't talk. Saw it? The Rebbe says, same way the Ani. He says, it's like nothing. It's like water, By the Catholics, lahavdil, to be a saint, somebody had to give 3 blessings, and they have doctors that make it that, like, they testify that it was like a miracle, But the Rebbe 3 blessings was every hour, the miracles that are going on. So it's interesting because the idea of Chassidus is that they say by Chassidim that the blessings were under the table, miracles were under the table, but nobody had time to pick them up. By the other Rebbes, everything's blessings, miracles. Why? Because by us, it's much more about Avodas Hashem, doing the mission. By the Rebbe as well, you find the Rebbe's not into. Somebody told me he went by a certain Rebbe, a certain group. So the Rebbe said to him, "No, are you making money?" He says, "No, I've never been poorer and I've never been happier," because he was a Baal Tshuva, so he loved the idea of being. And that Rebbe was like, "What?" He didn't understand. But the Rebbe understood the deeper part of the human soul is seeking emes, seeking truth. So the Rebbe came for the emes, the real story, not just like how do we, like, as somebody said, God is not just a butler. In any event, so the story is that even Moshe Rabbeinu, nobody can understand Hashem's ability to create something out of nothing and to conceal himself from the thing that he created. So even though everything's literally Hashem, but we don't see it, it's all a miracle. Even the concealment is a complete miracle. And then the Alter Rebbe speaks about in Gan Eden, there's a heaven made out of dew or something like that. And this is what's called Tal Torah, drips of basically Chassidus come down. He said it before, the Rebbe Rashab once said that he was a couple hours in his room. He says, I was just in Gan Eden for a couple hours because he was learning the Kutza Torah. That's what they learn in Gan Eden. There's a story, I don't remember who it was, some Rebbe, where he was on the way to the mikveh. He stops and he has a chair. He sits down for an hour and then he gets up. The Alter Rebbe had given a mimer and he had access, so he just listened to a mimer from the Alter Rebbe. So these are big revelations. Anybody that looks at the Kutza Torah, you see tremendous revelations. Actually, I'd love to someday. We should really be taking out of everything. So much of Chassidus is meditations. Like think this. You should have like the whole Chassidus in that form where a person can learn. Okay, you want meditations for this, meditations for that. It's very important to do that. In a way, you've ever seen encyclopedia, the Hasidic encyclopedia Sefer Erchin? I don't know if you've ever seen it from Yael Khan. It's amazing Sefer. So that did a really good job of like systemizing, like he has, let's say, on Achdus Hashem, things like that. So he really like Avos Hashem, he systemized.
Edited by Rabbi Kaplan.
I don't know. It was Yoel Khan. He worked.
It's two books.
Right now it's like 8 books. So it's very, 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 very good. It's amazing, and it's amazing. I translated the one on Avos Yisrael, but it's so important because it's it's really. Because not only does it, the Rebbe said when he saw it, he said, I knew it would be good, I didn't know it would be this good. Because not only does it bring all the meditations, but it also systemizes it. And that's a big thing. Like Avos Yisrael, there's so much in Chassidus, but it systemizes the whole thing. So it's tremendous stuff. So, shame. He didn't have children. I think the Rebbe told him to work on Sefer Erchin. So that was his mission in life but in any event, so the sum total is that the neshama gets the Gan Eden. What do they get? They get the Jew, the Tal Torah, and this is like the Chesed and the Gvura of the world of Atzilus. And Chesed is the expression of Hashem, Gvura is the concealment of Hashem. But they're both really the love of Hashem. Because when a person loves, let's say your child, you express enough of yourself for the benefit, you conceal enough of yourself for the benefit. Everything is there for the benefit of my child. And that is what Hashem is to us. Every expression, every revelation. And the thing is, it's a constant reality. Like we said the other day, that Elikus, it was actually Friday, so I don't think you were here, but the idea of is Yud Kei Vav Kei. The idea of Hashem, the Yud Kei Vav Kei is Hoiva, it's a continuous force. Every moment of existence is Hashem. And it's only at the same moment there's also Elikim concealing him, and that basically reveals us. So it's unbelievable what we think about what's going on. It's like the infinite, every moment is the infinite love of Hashem. And so when we have to engage in that in life, the Alter Rebbe speaks about this a little bit, that life is tests of trust. And we have to work on and I said this to somebody who's going through a difficult time, so, we have to work on our trust. And we work on it, we can reveal our trust. And I think you could even say, Hashem, I trust you, I know everything is good, I know everything you're doing is good. Then just by doing that, we pass the test, and then hopefully in a revealed sense it becomes good. So we're saying, Hashem, we trust you, everything you do is love, and you're going to reveal Mashiach, and we're going to be in the dancing in the Beis HaMikdash, Hey Davi Ameinu Mamish!